You're listening to Funky Monkey MMA.
Never die. Let's go. Counting down blackout cage fight, body shot, left, right. Rage, rise, immortal rise. Through the ashes into the light. Rise, immortal
Legends of the Cage, proud sponsor of Funky Monkey MMA Radio, helping legends of yesterday and tomorrow. You can find them on social media, on Twitter at TrueMMAHOF, or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Legends of the Cage, or go to the website, LegendsOfTheCage.com. You can find them at the MMA Classic in Syracuse, New York, October 3rd and 4th. That's Legends of the Cage, together with Funky Monkey MMA Radio. You can listen to Funky Monkey MMA Radio on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio, Player FM, Cast Roller, the TuneIn Radio app, MMAFutures.com, and FightBookMMA.com. If you want the freshest news and notes on MMA, then check out FunkyMonkeyMMA.com. Interested in sponsoring the show? Then send an email to FunkyMonkeyMMA@gmail.com.
You're listening to Funky Monkey MMA.
MMA fans, are you looking for something to set you apart? Then check out AltercationClothing.com. Altercation Clothing is a brand with attitude, offering fans and fighters alike a variety of specialty shirts. If you won't back down, then you're ready for an altercation. Altercation Clothing can be found on Facebook at Facebook.com/Altercation Clothing. Altercation Clothing is a proud sponsor of Funky Monkey MMA Radio. Are you looking for a new MMA website to check out? Then get over to MMAWreckage.com for the latest news, analysis, videos, in-depth blogs, fighter interviews, and more. From the local shows to the UFC, MMAWreckage.com has you covered. You can find MMA Wreckage on social media as well, on Twitter at MMA Wreckage, or on Facebook at Facebook.com/UFC fans page. So stay up to date with all things MMA at MMAWreckage.com.
Well, first off, Gilbert, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview with us. You're scheduled to face Bristol Marunde at RFA 31 on October 9th. Can you give us your thoughts on this matchup?
Be honest with you, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. I just think that, Bristol Marunde, he's a tough guy. He's a tough competitor. He's durable. He has a certain amount of skill set that I have to respect. But really, I just feel like, this is just, my time and this is my fight. And, I'm just going to go out there and beat him in every part of the fight. So, yeah.
And how familiar were you with Marunde before the fight announcement? Had you heard of him before you?
Yeah. I know he was an Ultimate Fighter season 16. He actually fought on the same card that I fought on in the UFC, which was the Ultimate Fighter season 17 finale when he fought my former teammate Clint Hester. So, I've been heard of him even back when he fought Jacare and Strikeforce, to the third round. So, he's been around. He's an experienced guy. And, yeah, I definitely heard of him.
Right, and you've been on quite a tear lately. You've gone 6-2 in your last 8 performances. Does this give you an extra boost of confidence entering into the fight?
Yeah, I definitely believe in my last 8 fights. I won 6, lost 2, and the 2 I lost was by decisions. And, I've been able to really, stay active, stay healthy. And the big thing about the guys that, the fights that I won, or even the guys I fought in general, has all been tough competitors. I haven't had no cans, nobody that has a losing record. I've been fighting guys that's been on on a winning streak. When I fought Jason South, he was in a 10-fight winning streak. Actually, he did lose his last fight, but before that, he was in a 10-fight winning streak. He was 10-1. When I fought Ben Bruler, this guy was on the tear. When I fought Bojan, he's been doing good. Even the fights that I've lost to guys like Chitty and Brian Foster, all those guys was just really, really tough guys. So for the fact that I've been able to hang with all tough guys and be relatively successful more often than not, yeah, I'm highly confident.
And since being on the Ultimate Fighter 17, you've dropped down to welterweight. Is that something that you've done previously in your career, or did something else inspire this change?
Yeah, I mean, it was something I was going to do after the Ultimate Fighter, regardless. You know, I'm obviously a very small middleweight, and you know, I knew if I made it to the UFC, I was going to make that cut. The only reason why I didn't do it before, I was like, you know, I don't get paid enough to make that type of cut. So, but now since I did the UFC and I fought, you know, in the Ultimate Fighter, and I was in the house with 13 other middleweights, and I realized how big these guys are, I was like, yeah, you know, it's about time for me to go down to 170.
Right, and like you said earlier, both you and Marunde were competitors on different seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. He was actually on season 16, the season before the one you were on. Did you watch Marunde when he was on the show?
I didn't really watch that season. You know, like most people, I hate to say that season was a boring season. It was the worst Ultimate Fighter season. I really didn't watch it, so I really don't really know too much what happened on that season. You know, and it was a season that it just seemed like, you know, the talent really wasn't there. You know, don't get me wrong, you got guys like Neil Magny that came from that season and really blew up, but overall, you know, it wasn't a very glamorous season. So, yeah, you know, his season compared to my season is definitely night and day.
Right, and it's kind of interesting to see because you had that season 16, which was heavily criticized. Like even Dana was saying that just the fights weren't very good and the format wasn't very good. And then for the next season, the one that you were on, season 17, that's when they kind of changed it up a bit. There was a different format, and people then started to get back on board and said that that was one of the best seasons that they had in a while in terms of talent, in terms of presentation. So did you expect that going into the show, that it was going to receive this praise that it got?
Well, I mean, you never know what you're going to get, you know, going into the Ultimate Fighter. But we did know that we had to, you know, perform, because it seemed like the Ultimate Fighter show was dying out after season 16. It was like, if they had another bum season, you know, the show may have been canceled. Who knows? Because the ratings was dropping dramatically, you know. And so we knew we had to go in there and do something special. And you know, we've just been lucky enough to get in there and have some really tough competitors. You know, even the fights to get in the house, which obviously was one of the fights that I performed the best. You know, everything was just put together. You know, I obviously didn't win the show, and I didn't really get too far after winning the fight in the house, but I was around nothing but successful guys, and I really feel like I took some of that energy and I took some of that knowledge and brought it back home with me. Right,
definitely. And on your season of The Ultimate Fighter, you were on the team of John Jones, and Jones he's been in some hot water as of late. You know, he's been kind of the subject of some certain different incidents that have been going on. Were you surprised when you heard about these headlines? And could we kind of get maybe your 2 cents on this topic, since you've personally trained with him?
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I didn't really care either way. You know, John Jones is just not a factor. Never really been. You know, I wish him the best. You know, I don't wish something ill towards him. But, you know, the stuff that's been going on in his life, that's his problem. It has nothing to do with it. Doesn't affect me one way or another. So, yeah, I can't even tell you real details about it.
Okay, right. And since, you know, going back to your fight, since both you and Marunde have been very successful recently, you're both on win streaks and have looked very good. Do you believe that the winner of this fight could possibly get the call from the UFC, or is that something that you're not really focusing on at the moment?
Yeah, I'm not really focusing on it, because I think I got more to prove. You know, if the UFC called me, fine. I feel like if they did call me, it would be like a circumstances like somebody got injured or something like that. I think that, you know, with the UFC and the talent pool that they have right now, and how many fighters they have on the roster, they're being a little bit more skeptical on who they pick up. And it seems like they go more international. Every day I feel like I'm reading something about they signing this new international guy, as far as like signing guys that's locally within the United States, which kind of sucks, but, you know, it is what it is. So I just got to stay focused. I just got to keep fighting, keep winning, and then we see how things play out.
And after this fight, is there any specific fighter, whether they're signed with RFA or not, that you would like to maybe face the next time you step in the cage?
Nah, I couldn't even tell you. I don't even follow most of the guys, that don't fight in the UFC. I worry about people when I have to fight them. I don't really do a lot of scouting. I really don't care. At the end of the day, the promoter would tell me, because it's not like I could call a promoter and say, hey, book this guy, I want to fight him. They don't really care. They look at it like who's going to sell the most tickets in the particular market, what's financially beneficial for them. That's how they look at it. So they don't really care on matchups, really. I mean, they obviously want a good matchup, tough matchup, exciting fights. But at the end of the day, it's all about which one is more economically marketable. So, which they don't really care about, in my opinion. They never ask me who I want to fight. So I don't even sweat that.
And lastly here, can we get your final prediction on how you see your fight with Marunde ending? Is there any specific way that you see the way you see getting your hand raised?
Honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth about this. It's not going to last 5 rounds. That's all I know.
Okay, yeah. You just know that it's not going to go the distance. It will be finished at some point during 25 minutes?
No. Hear me out. He's not going to last with me 5 rounds.
MMA Futures and Funky Monkey Radio partner together to bring you the latest fighter interviews and MMA news. Check out MMAFutures.com.
Hey, it's Dynamite Dustin Hill, executive producer of The Sports Cage. Be sure to check out the show live at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for MMA Mondays with host Debo and MMA legend Paul the Polar Bear Varlins and Manny Tiny Sumo Yarborough talking all things MMA. You can also catch WMMA Wednesdays with Debo and Mama Beast talking to some of the biggest names in WMMA. Find all things Sports Cage at FunkyMonkeyMMA.com.
You're listening to Funky Monkey MMA.
MMA fans, are you looking for something to set you apart? Then check out AltercationClothing.com. Altercation Clothing is a brand with attitude, offering fans and fighters alike a variety of specialty shirts. If you won't back down, then you're ready for an altercation. Altercation Clothing can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/Altercation Clothing. Altercation Clothing is a proud sponsor of Funky Monkey MMA Radio.
Thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview with us, and congratulations on your recent win over Jessica Andrade at UFC 191. You were able to secure the rear naked choke late in the second round. Were you pleased with your overall performance in that fight?
I had to actually go back and watch the fight. It's a little hard to remember everything. But from the way that the fight felt to the way that it looked, it was a completely different feeling. But I was actually impressed with how it was. It was a fast-paced fight from the very beginning. We were just pretty much back and forth the whole time. And, like I said in the interview with that fight, every single second counts. And I've kind of gotten good with those submissions at the end.
And when you locked on the choke, how confident were you that you would finish the fight at that moment?
I'm pretty confident in all my submissions, especially last second like that. I know my strength and I know my technique when it comes to groundwork and stuff. With the way that Jessica actually postured up, it was kind of bad news for her. She put herself in a really bad position, even though I didn't have both hooks in. I think strength came into play with that part. So it was pretty comfortable for me. I was pretty confident. I didn't know how much heart would come in with Jessica if she could hang on for as long as she did, but as far as the choke felt to me, it was pretty tight.
Okay, yeah. And you were originally scheduled to face Liz Carmouche at this event, though she was forced to pull out and was eventually replaced with Andrade. Were you happy to see that you would be given a rematch with Andrade for this matchup?
Yeah, for one, the 135-pound division is still growing, so eventually all of us girls are going to fight each other. I do want to face all the women that I have lost to, so that's kind of the whole deal with this revenge tour idea. I was originally supposed to face my old teammate, Leslie Smith. We fought before on Invicta, and I've been looking for that rematch for a while. So I was actually originally supposed to fight her, and then when she pulled, they gave me Liz Carmouche, and I was like, okay, she's a well-known opponent, and she's ranked within the top. So I was like, all right, that works for me. And then when she pulled, it was a little disappointing going back and forth with all the different opponents changing last minute. But when they offered me Jessica, I mean, she's one of the other girls that I wanted to fight. So it was definitely, I've never been the type of person to actually turn down any fights. So, I mean, I was kind of comfortable with whoever they really threw in front of me.
Since this fight was a rematch, what were you planning on doing differently for this fight? What kind of adjustments did you make for this second matchup?
You know, Jessica, she's tough. She's a little bulldog. She comes out from the beginning, and she doesn't stop. I mean, she'll go and go, and even though she's small, she's strong as hell. But the first time we fought and everything, not to take away from Jessica, but I pretty much mentally beat myself. And from that time to where I stand now, I've excelled a lot as a fighter, and I've really changed my game and grown. I've gotten more comfortable in my own skin with my technique and believing in myself. So it was just pretty much going back to why I fell in love with this sport. I had to find that passion again, and I had to learn how to have fun. And that was pretty much the big difference that I made, was just having fun. Because, I mean, I have the skill, I have the technique. I had to believe in myself. I had to trust within my coaches, and I had to kind of rewind some things and just remember everything.
And the date of that fight, September 5th, also happened to be your birthday. Happy belated birthday to you. And was it a little strange to be fighting on your birthday, or did that add maybe a little bit of extra motivation for you?
No, actually, I was excited. I originally asked for it. I mean, it's not every day that a fight lands on your birthday, so I was like, you know, I think that'd be a good birthday present to myself, just to kind of get back into the grind of everything. And so I was kind of staying pretty persistent on UFC. Sean Shelby was kind of finding me a fight and going from there. And then another thing that just made it exciting for me was the fact that my dad got to be there. He was like, you know, I get to celebrate your birthday and actually be at one of your fights. So it was just overnight. It was an exciting night for me. And
after that fight, just last night, we recently saw you at Invicta FC 14. I believe you were in the corner of Sharon Jacobson, correct?
Yeah.
And how did it feel seeing your teammate come home with the win, with you cornering her that night?
You know, it's awesome. I mean, me and Sharon started training together probably 2 fights in. I mean, I met her when I started training for the Ashley Evans-Smith fight, who was originally supposed to be the first time that I was supposed to face Holly. And I kind of met her, and she's a little monster at 115. So it's been an exciting run to just be in the corner and have that opportunity to watch her grow as well. I mean, I've always supported Invicta, and everything that they've done for women's MMA, and then just to go out there and have an athlete such as Sharon go out there and perform, I mean, it's exciting.
And being a former Invicta fighter yourself, how closely do you still follow the organization? Do you still keep up with every card and everything like that and still follow it as it grows?
Yeah, I've been to every Invicta. I've only missed one, and that was when I believe they were in Texas. I had something going on that I couldn't make it out there for that. But other than that, I mean, I've completely supported the show from their very first one. I think it's great what Shannon really does for women's MMA, and I think it's important to really remember where you came from. You know, she gave us a happy home before a lot of us got into the UFC, and I think we should still definitely support that.
And are there any specific fighters that are with Invicta do you think could pretty soon move their way over to the UFC?
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's a lot of talent within my division as well as the 115 division. So I think at any given time, any of them can go into the UFC. I think the one that has a really good shot is actually Sharon. Like I said, I mean, she's strong at 115, and she has a great opportunity in front of her. I think she needs to just get a couple more impressive wins under her belt like she's doing. She has some goals of her own as far as what she wants to do within the promotion of Invicta. So I think after she achieves those, she'll have a bright future with UFC.
And lastly here, you talked a little bit about how you want to face everyone that's beaten you before and get rematches with them. So for your the next time you step in the cage, is there any specific opponent that you would like to face next?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I eventually want to rematch Leslie. I want to rematch Holly Holm, and I want to rematch Kat Zingano. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind fighting anybody within the top 10 as well either.
You're listening to Funky Monkey MMA.
MMA fans, are you looking for something to set you apart? Then check out altercationclothing.com. Altercation Clothing is a brand with attitude, offering fans and fighters alike a variety of specialty shirts. If you won't back down, then you're ready for an altercation. Altercation Clothing can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/Altercation Clothing. Altercation Clothing is a proud sponsor of Funky Monkey MMA Radio. You can listen to Funky Monkey MMA Radio on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio, Player FM, Castroller, the TuneIn Radio app, MMAFutures.com, and FightBookMMA.com. If you want the freshest news and notes on MMA, then check out FunkyMonkeyMMA.com. Interested in sponsoring the show? Then send an email to funkymonkeymma@gmail.com.
You're listening to Funky Monkey MMA.